It's been a while since I've done one of these, but as I look upon my stash, my hoard, my treasure trove of trophies and medals and certificates at all of my accumulated glory in this past year, I think it's time to inject a little bit of spice into my competitive play. I think it's time to bring back an old series from the channel's long-lost history. That's right, we're bringing back Road to Gold. It's Road to Gold Season 3, baby, let's go! We'll see how that goes. We'll see how that comes out. Welcome to War Games on Toast, all of you lovely people. Excited intro aside, it's official. Road to Gold Season 3 is here. It's now. It's happening. And how this is going to work is every Friday you'll get an extra video, and it's kind of this. It's Road to Gold. I go through battle reports, lists, and ideas when I build up a faction from the ground up and try and take gold with it. These are voted on by patrons and members, and this time it's the Order of Azir. And you know what? I think I'm going to do a Season 4. Even if we succeed, Season 3, if we fail, it doesn't matter. Season 4 is coming too, and if you want a part of the selection process, well, you know what to do, links down below. But if you're new here, who am I? Well, I am Toast, and I am a somewhat competent Warcry player. I've had some success in the past, I've had some failures in the past, and I love to just natter about Warcry and Malifaux and all that good stuff. And Road to Gold is basically an outlet for me to ramble through the list building process as I take bad factions or underrated factions or just gimmicks in good factions and elevate them on the competitive stage to try and get some kind of glory. It's all for a bit of fun, and we all have a good time here. And in fact, we even stream now. So there's even more things to natter about because we can do this stuff on stream. We can do it live. We can do it on these Friday videos. It's a good time. If you want to be part of the streams are every Friday at 7 PM UK time, whatever that time is in your time zone. It's a good time. But with all of that out of the way, let's get on with the actual meat of this video. Let's go.
And now for something completely different.
If you've made it this far, then you are one of the very special viewers who have decided to watch more than 5 seconds before dipping out. Thank you for your time, but whilst you are here, please consider dropping a like, a comment, and even subscribing, as it helps me continue to do what I do. But if you want to help the channel out even further, then please consider joining my Patreon or my YouTube members, or using my Element Games affiliate link in the description down below. But with that out of the way, back to the show.
Groovy.
Order of Azir in some circles are considered very mid-tier and in others fairly low. In any case, they have some issues that hold them back, one of which is the fact that these are one of the 3 factions in Warcry that don't have a battle trait. This means they are stuck with the kinda pants generic Order one and lack connective tissue to bind the warband together compared to the vast majority of other factions. Secondly, their abilities are very expensive. Order of Azir are what I call a toolbox faction. They have lots of powerful abilities, but those abilities are expensive, so you have to use the right ability at the right time every single time. The concept of a throwaway ability doesn't really exist, so you have an extra layer of complexity to manage as your resource game is super tight. Thirdly, everyone is unique and your faction is surprisingly large and expensive. Bar your super cheap dogs and arguably Lysa, the vast majority of Order of Azir are expensive, like mid-range hero expensive whilst not really having outstanding stats. This means that they can dish out okay damage, they can take an okay amount of damage in return, but your pieces are specialised and need to be used carefully. Also, if your opponent has a list with answers to your big hitters like Quiet Pock, then the game can go downhill very quickly. So those are the negatives of Order of Azir, but they also have some pretty stonking strengths that shouldn't be ignored. Firstly, all 3 of their witch hunters, Haskell, Hanover, and Galen, are very points efficient. They have access to a very nice range attack for chip damage, they are solid in melee, and have more than enough durability for their cost. Throw in some very potent burst abilities and even the toughest of enemies can be taken down by one of these lads. Secondly, ranged. Order of Azir are jam-packed with ranged units. Nearly everything in their faction has a gun of some sort, and those guns can be pretty darn good. Not Hrothgorn or Arbalista good, but still pretty darn swanky. Between Doralia Vendenst, Jelson Darrick, Quiet Pock, Armand Callus, and Mistress Varentia, Order of Azir can pressure enemies from every range imaginable, allowing you to pick off chaff, harass slower warbands and models, and generally be a nightmare. It helps that their melee units aren't too shabby in a pinch either, and many of their guns can be fired into combat. Finally, their ability suite. Whilst this was a negative due to cost, the actual power of their abilities is quite high. Between Explosive Bolt for fantastic AoE damage, getting free actions, removing your opponent's abilities, or becoming practically immortal, Order of Azir can do a lot, and the right ability applied at just the right time can be devastating. So there's a lot to work with here and a lot to consider when making a list. One of the things I like to do when I start learning a new faction is to keep it all in faction. Road to Gold isn't necessarily about just taking your own stuff, but keeping the identity of the warband is important to me. But ultimately, that's not why I do it. I do it so I can get a feel for what everything does and whether or not I like a specific model. Theory is all well and good, but actual experience and how every model interacts with your unique playstyle is equally as important. So I cobbled this list together on stream with that in mind. The core of this list is take all of the big guns and a smidge of protect the big guns whilst also trying to hit 9-man. Surprisingly, that all came together wonderfully. Not only that, I even had 60 points left over and was able to put strength on the range attacks of Pock, Doralia, Armand, and still had points left over to both Lysa with movement or Varentia with strength for her one-shot murder laser, but in the end I settled for +1 crit damage on Hannibal Toll. The reason for this is because Hannibal is an absolute murder hobo. He is high risk, high reward, low toughness, low strength, high volume, even higher crit. This lad rocks a crit 5 at base, and going to crit 6 makes him very good at just blowing things up on a good roll. Throw in his unique ability to crit on a 5+, and he can go kind of loopy with a low triple. If you really want to go full casino mode, full Las Vegas, you can use Brand of the Righteous on a high triple and go all the way to crit 12 and just pray that you roll a bunch of 6s. And not only that, both of those abilities apply to both of your attack actions, which is very good if you're locked in a prolonged combat. The main draws here though are Armand Callus for his 3-5-2-3 brace of pistols that can fire up to 3 times in a single turn, Quiet Pock for his incredible 2-5-3-6 exploding crossbow, and Doralia Van Denst, who looks a little bit anemic at 2-5-1-4, but she has the ability Banishment to bring her to a 2-5-2-5, which is very nice for punching holes in chaff and mid-range. She's also quite durable at 18 wounds. With these 3 as the core of my damage, I need to keep them all protected, namely Pock and Doralia. To do this, I have done the fairly simple thing of putting scary things next to them, with the addition of dogs. So Pock deploys with Hannibal Toll and a dog. Hannibal is by far the scarier of the 2 witch hunters in this warband, and Pock is by far the easiest to kill and most powerful piece in this list. In short, he needs to survive, and having a deterrent like Hannibal should work wonders even if he's literally just body blocking. He also has a dog because the dogs are great for running distraction work, and if the dog dies I can use my quad, and that's just 3 damage. Kind of. Doralia is protected by Haskell and that second dog. Doralia is nowhere near as vulnerable to death as Pock, as she has almost twice the wounds and can almost fight in melee. As a result, Haskell, who is noticeably less killy than a blessed Hannibal, takes up the role of body blocker with a dog for distraction. Group 3 is full of the support, the vagabonds and the vagrants. These are led and protected by Armand Callus, as he has the most wounds out of this bunch, and he is also by far the most dangerous. Plus, he can fire into melee, meaning he's hard to truly shut down. He defends the supportive aspects of this list with Varentia and Lysa. Varentia can turn off abilities and is a great support piece for Callus, as she can fire her murder laser into melee. Lysa can also support with her ranged 3 melee attack, but her main role is to be annoying. Movement 4 and Fly with 15 wounds makes her great at getting around the board and being a pain in the ass. If everything goes according to plan, the list should work well, and provided that I don't get too greedy with my shooting and ignore the win condition, we should be okay. But that's all theory, so I tested it live and on stream against one of the best players on the planet, Off Meta Musings.
This right here is my favorite thing ever in the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
We played a 4 treasure mission and I ran the above list, and he took an experimental Slaanesh Demons list designed to drain activations, drain attacks, and simply put, just blend. It's also really fast. I was a little bit concerned at first because on paper, speed is the bane of ranged attacks. The faster they are, the less shooting you can do, and I really need to shoot people with this list. That being said though, we deployed our 1 deployment group for this mission, in my case Hanover, Pock and Dogs, and in Off Meta's case it was the Epitome and a Fiend, and we went right at it. I decided to ignore the treasures on turn 1 and accept that Pock's group was in a little bit of a pickle due to turn 2 having demons coming in from behind, and turn 1 2 devilishly fast enemies on their way. Thankfully, I got the first activation and Pock did crazy Pock things and took 15 wounds off the Epitome. This instantly caused Off Meta to reconsider going over there with both his Fiend and his Epitome, and instead she flew away to get treasure and hopefully avoid a second crossbow to the head on round 2. His Fiend, however, was at full wounds and was less concerned about death and managed to find a way to get into my deployment. Thankfully, my defensive positioning meant Pock was safe and he was forced to attack Hanover, who took the damage like a champ. Then Hanover hit back and the plan came together perfectly because Hanover popped his crit on 5+ ability and then landed a staggering 28 damage on the Fiend, taking it out immediately. Moral of the story is, don't fuck with Hanover. Despite a great start, Off Meta did have a treasure and I didn't, so he jumped ahead in points. Turn 2, and this is where the fun begins. Everybody comes on, including a whole bunch of demonettes behind Pock. Thankfully, I had first activation, and Pock, not running away, decided to double fire and murderize the demonette for 15 damage, but sadly I failed to put my explosive bolt. So far so good though, that makes 2 kills at the start of turn 2. Vexmo made his way towards Hanover, but Vexmo is slow, which meant he couldn't quite get there yet, and basically he fell for the bait by overcommitting to stopping Pock. Distraction Pock is real, and I still have a Hanover and a dog messing around to run distraction if I really want to. Doralia took out another demonette who was threatening Pock and basically securing that deployment for turn 2 because he only had Vashtis left on that flank. The combined might of Armand, Varentia and Lysa almost killed the Epitome, but alas, she lived to whiff her attacks and fight another day. I scooped up some treasure, but I was still behind. I owned the center of the board though, and in this mission I would gain 3 points if I continued to hold it at the end of the game. With my warband being 4 models up in advantage, this shouldn't be an issue. Sadly, turn 3 is where this game falls apart because we, being the professionals we are, completely overlooked the fact that you can't disengage from combat if you are carrying a treasure. This meant that the Epitome survived longer than she should have and ultimately led to Off Meta winning by a single point, aka by cheating. What a devilish man he is. But we did catch it later on in the game, and we will continue this breakdown anyway because learning can be found even in both games. Doralia and Pock continued to be absolute bastards and killed off even more demonettes, leaving Off Meta with basically just his heroes and Vexmo. I decided to Hail Mary Hanover into Vexmo, and Hanover completely whiffed because Hanover giveth and he taketh away. Still, Pock was alive and Vexmo got tied up. Turn 4 was cleanup and the points landed how they did. I lost by a point. I memed some dogs to their doom, but some things to take away were: don't forget basic rules and don't meme on stream. Hanover never had to get into combat with Vexmo. It was a needless throwaway of resources. I did this instead of focusing on the Epitome because memes on stream. Had I stuck to the plan and killed the Epitome, the scenario where he ran away would not have happened because it would have been dead. Rules error be damned. Mission always comes before the memes. Heck, the dogs didn't even need to die either. In short, I was foolish. In an ideal scenario, this could have been a win, and one where only Hanover died, making it quite the dominant potential win. Secondly, the ranged output of this list was very good at clearing out chaff. Demonettes are good units, wounds 10 and very solid melee stats with good burst potential, but ultimately Pock and Duralia were able to pick them apart with ease, each of them getting 2 or 3 kills, devastating off meta's list. Not only that, but in hindsight, this matchup was likely in my favour simply down to the fact I have really good guns, and despite his speed, if you can take massive chunks out of a warband before they can get in, speed doesn't really matter. We saw this when the Epitome backed away after taking devastating damage, and we saw this with every demonette ending up dead and buried. Deploying the witch hunters with their shooty friends immediately paid off, and this is a must-do thing going forward. Those guns must never stop shooting. Having something big enough to defend them to make sure that happens is vital to this list. And finally, Varentia was great in theory. She did good damage, but her real advantage was the threat of taking away off-meta's quad. So in this list, off-meta can use a quad to prevent something from activating. This is super strong into any list. However, Varentia on a triple can delete quads, triples, or doubles, more or less at will with a high enough triple. Since you're more likely to go first with a triple than with a quad, if he ever got a quad or heaven forbid made a quad, Varentia can jump in, delete it, and boom, we balk his whole turn plan. It didn't happen this game, but off-meta was very aware of that possibility. Overall, I was really happy with this list, and I would actually take this to an event right now, but we still have weeks to go, and chat had some pretty great ideas for how to expand this list and introduce some new source, and we're going to talk about them now. During the nattering on stream, maximizing damage output to make up for our inability to deal with big things or durable things became a real focus. Simon Berger on 2520 suggested that I take a Lord Imperator because this lad is big. He has solid melee stats, good action economy with Blaze of Glory, and a double to attack on move or kill, and he packs a range attack for theme and a triple to get 1 to 3 models to move or attack again. This is a lot of support for one model. The only issue being is that this lad is 240 points, which is a big ask. The list loses Varentia and Heskell to go to 8-man, but we still have 45 points for blessings, allowing us to buff Armand, Pock and Duralia. Losing Varentia is a blow to our defensive support, but losing Haskell is less of a blow as the Lord Imperator can pull off that defensive duty all day. The goal here will be to get the Imperator to try and get Pock and Armand ideally to shoot more, therefore pumping out more damage. Duralia is uniquely weak in this list as her range attack only gets great when you're burning doubles, so when asked to shoot again, she's not landing those juicy 2-5 damage profiles, she's landing 1-4, which is a little bit of a shame. Overall, the list does look solid, but I'm a little bit concerned that dropping to the 8-man and the buff from the Imperator not being that great in this list could be a downfall in practice, but it's on the list to try. Then Grumpy Guard rolled in with a 9-man list focusing on the Brethren of the Bolt. The theory being you have powerful triples, let's add in some powerful doubles that deal some raw burn damage. It's not a bad idea at all, and he dropped this absolute fire in chat. This list is still a 9-man, but to get there we had to lose Varentia, Haskell and Duralia, so our ranged and defensive support is weakened, but we gain a fantastic burn double on 3 models, Friar Galvic for legitimate melee threat, and the tank that is Paterfilius. Your Cobb rolls up for some chaffy zaps too. On paper, it looks great. Numbers, ranged punch from Armand and Pock, burn from the Brethren. My only concern here is that it feels like a lot of the flavour from the Order of Azir is being drained to support the Brethren, and I don't know if that's what I want from an Order of Azir list. That being said though, it's on the list to try, so keep an eye out for future videos covering their exploits. Near the end of the stream, the Beardo Dad dropped this rather interesting bomb by suggesting Elathane and Tamiel. Elathane being a fast durable elf with a net, and Tamiel being a fast ranged elf with a pull. basically injecting some support into the list. This list comes out to 9 models and it has all the toys bar Varentia, being able to take Hanover, Pock, Armand and Duralia while still hitting 9 models with allies feels great on paper, and having some additional speed for treasure and objective play outside of dogs is great too. I can see this working very well as it meshes what makes my original Order of AZYR list good with just the right amount of support from allies. The only issue I see is actually finding Elethane and Tamel in the wild as they are long out of print. Next up we have another one of my lists, although it's heavily inspired by Alex and his amazing Vanguard chamber list that he ran at Warcrier in the West, and it ran Averon, Stormsire and Ilthari's Guardians, and the list is super simple. I basically bring those things into my list. With these changes, this list brings 2 wizards for more 3/6 damage output. It brings a Chaffee 1 for Archer with Anslane. Ilthari brings a 6-inch AoE for amazing quad burn damage. Averon brings outstanding single target damage with his own ability, and then we have the Order of AZYR lads who do what they do. The only downside here is that all my guns are locked to strength 4. I don't have the points to bless them any higher, but I am still at a 9-man, which means I do have a lot of guys. Averon is a menace, being able to zap and delete things at will, and that could be a huge game changer for this list. But it might also be too focused on Averon pulling all of the weight. Those strength 4 guns can really struggle to punch through toughness 4 and toughness 5 and above. And the final list I'm going to look at comes from Heinz D, and he recommended looking to Caradon Overlords for access to fight for profit. There are a lot of good guns in Caradon, a lot of good bodies, and Fight for Profit opens up a +1 attack on range attacks when on objectives or holding treasure. It's low tempo, but Pock, Armand, Varentia and Duralia all benefit massively from +1 attack. Duralia in particular gets to gain the benefits of banishment on all of her bonus shots, making it more appealing than the aforementioned Lord Imperatant. The specific model Heinz D suggested was the Admiral, and for good reason. 22 wounds, 4435 in melee and 3414 at range with that pistol is a very good shout. Although other options exist like Bjorg and Thundrick to add an even bigger gun, and potentially more underworld chaff, an Endrin Master for no gun but a much better melee profile at a lower price, or even an Etheric Navigator for a good quad, low price and okay stats. My only concern is how clunky Fight for Profit can be, and that it simply doesn't work on all missions. You need objectives or treasures, and if you can't get it, then the main draw of this ally is wasted. That being said though, cheap burly beaters are great and can be used to defend the big guns, so there's always that, even in more kill-focused missions. The list that we came up with leaves 30 points for blessings, which would likely go on Pock and Duralia, although there is an argument for Pock and Armand, or even Pock and the Admiral. This list is still a 9-man list. It has every toy including Varentia, with the only weakness not being able to give everybody that +1 strength. That being said, I could drop the Admiral for an Endrin Master, and that's definitely possible to free up some points, but losing the gun feels bad on a movement 3 lad. I am going to test and try both variants of this list, but this one, like with Beardo's, feels very close to the original list in all the right ways. Again, Fighting for Profit can be a little bit finicky and it's not always available, but in the right mission, having Duralia and Pock deploy with an Admiral to open up a gun line the likes of which the world has never seen is very tempting. But that's the end of my ramble. That's the end of this video, and it's so good to be back and just nattering in the Road to Gold format again. I love doing Road to Gold back in the day. I love that I'm doing it now, and hopefully you also love it too. And I am so excited to try some of these lists out. I'm so excited to discover new lists as I go forward, and hopefully you'll get involved too. If you have any ideas for allies or lists, let me know in the comments down below. It'll be awesome to look at them, go through them, and see how they fare once I put them to the test. But whilst you're down there, let me know if this video, or in the future, this series, has inspired you to look at or even start the Order of Azir. And also, whilst you're down there, hit like and subscribe, as that helps the channel out immensely. Until next time, lads, ladies, and everybody in between and beyond, ta-ra. Hey, old toast here, and welcome to the post-toast credits. A massive thank you to all of my patrons and members who helped to make this channel possible, but an extra special shout out to all of my algorithmic demon slayers: Andy Morris, Brioche 2, Electric Boogaloo, Blah Blah Blah, Heinz D, The Houston Toad, Lord Phylax, Mad Mars, Martin Spoon, Paulo Fernando Concleves Perez Fajio, Sable Saber, Skirmish Studios, Steve Bean, and Velas. Thank you for your continued support, and I'll catch you all next time.